your mouth, better add it with spit. Otherwise, pressure gon' be at your neck when I burn you like. This ain't a game, my aim is the throne. I'm much higher than you, like a rocket, a drone. I'm powerful, think of a stone, throw it off of my brain and I'm bad to the bone.
Welcome back, KDL fans. We're in our second day here of the 2023 season, and it's now time for our final series of the night, and it's going to be starting things off with a bang here in terms of walkouts, as MIRAENSEJONG, the kings of Kart Rider in terms of the legacy that this team holds, is massive, as Hojun is here on this squad alongside legend Hero, Nock, of course, a rising star himself, and Guard, who has a ton of experience. This is one of the most densely packed, talented teams you'll ever see.
This is the hype of all hype right now here in the KDL official season, and a lot of people are pointing them to be the team that could win it all this season.
Yeah, one of the big favorites, and it's a super team, you know, it's basically straight up. And the irony of tonight's match is that it is against a team of complete rookies, players who have no real kart rider experience in all ways. So an amateur team that was able to qualify here and made some pretty big waves because their performance was so strong that, you know, people were like, wow, this team actually looks really good in the preliminaries. We've got to watch out for these young players. So if they could upset tonight, it would definitely make the front page, let's just say, as Ming, Diamond, Knight, Move, and Node will be the players here. Node, the item ace. So it is some of the most storied players in Korean esports, let alone Kart Rider here, and a team that is trying to start their first page of their story in all ways.
It is not going to be an easy debut match. That seems to be the storyline that we're going for today for many of these amateur teams, and you can just see the nerves on the face of Always, whereas for a team like MIRAENSEJONG, there's no nerves at all. They're just here to game.
Yeah. Compilations of players with top individual stats.zip. There you go. I mean, their names alone say it all. I mean, Hero and Hojun have matched against each other when they were on different teams in countless ace matches because they were both the aces, always 07.
That's not very inspiring, is it?
No, not yet, but hey, I gotta say, it's gonna be a first challenging match for Always, no doubt, in this roster, against this roster rather, but never say never. The beginning of Always' journey, and as you can see, these players are very young. I mean, just visually you could see it, right? And they have no real records to speak of, so the youngest on top, that's what they're looking for here. Debut match for every single one of these players in what is a very large roster here.
So this team is going to be kind of like opening up a new box of cookies. We know they've done so well in preliminaries, but how well can they translate that skill over to the main stage? As we see a word of confidence from them, the oldest team and the youngest team are facing off, and hey, usually in games, the younger teams have an advantage.
Yeah, it is true, but experience in Kart Rider, if you've been watching Hojun since his debut so long ago, you know that experience actually can be the stronger factor, especially if you're able to keep your physical strength and your mechanics up, which Hojun has proven time and time again he can. But uniting Hojun and Hero on one roster almost feels unfair. Let's talk about the tracks here for speed, as we will have, of course, speed priority for MIRAENSEJONG. We're going to Glacier Extreme Stadium, then World Tour Miami Drive, so we will see that track no matter what here. Always having a bit of a card up their sleeve, and that selection, a very rare track. Terracotta Twister, as common as it gets. Then we'll go to Boom Hill Tunnel and Factory Facility 5, which does kind of sneak in that round 5 sometimes here at the KDL.
One interesting thing to note here is that Team Always actually got the coin flip win, and they chose item priority. So we're seeing that same strategy that FINALEe-sports played against Live Sandbox, where they kind of just gave speed up to Fate, and they really want to secure item. But now, this speed round 1 is going to be intense. Will MIRAENSEJONG crush the rookies? Let's find out in Glacier Extreme Stadium.
Titans here against rookies as MIRAENSEJONG against Always starts off here on Glacier Extreme Stadium, a track that will absolutely test you to your core in those final hairpins. And already MIRAENSEJONG holding top 3 spots here. Hojun at the back, but he's been known to make a last-minute run.
It's looking really tough right now for Always in the beginning of this track here. You can see Knight, he's so far behind, and now Move also falling behind Hojun. It just looks like MIRAENSEJONG have it all.
Diamond here, the only player who's really challenging for position here, but isn't able to contend with Guard very consistently. Now Ming coming into the picture right now as you move into these hairpin turns. And look at Guard just taking the better lines here. Diamond trying to be aggressive here, actually will get a little bit of momentum and is now going to try to challenge Nock. He needs to do more than take first place. I like his attempt to look for the collision here because that's going to slow multiple players down and give his team a chance to catch up, because getting first place alone is definitely not going to cut it.
It's certainly looking that way. I mean, Diamond, he's trying all he can to overtake Hojun. That's like the first hurdle that he has to get over right now, but even if he does, what happens then? He needs to catch up to Hero and Nock, but there's no draft angle. He needs to pray that on the hairpins is where he can catch up.
I mean, Guard almost looks like he's toying with them back here as well. Just constantly sweeping now, creating some disruption. And went straight from 6th, or rather 7th, I think it was, even back to 4th here. And we may have a 1, 2, 3, 4. One of the rarest things that you can see. We saw it once already this season. Final hairpin here. Let's see if anybody can stop Guard, because now you're just fighting to block the 1, 2, 3, 4. We're not even talking about who's going to win this race. And Guard is going to even pull ahead here further from Diamond. And as expected, a dominant first win here from MSJ. Will not be the 1, 2, 3, 4 as Diamond will at the last moment there pass Guard. That maybe it's just a like kind of pity move there from Guard, but man, this one was one of the most one-sided matches of Card Rider I've ever seen. And of course, nothing against these new rookie players. They will get experience as it goes off, but when you were playing against some of the finest players to ever touch the keyboard and mouse.
That was a seriously impressive feat from MIRAENSEJONG here. They're completely living up to the hype that everyone has expected from them. They absolutely delivered here. I was honestly expecting to see a lot of emphasis on Hojun and Hero holding the top 2 while the rest of the players really focused on sweeping, but that wasn't even needed. It just felt like every single player here just outperformed Always.
Yeah. Now, I want to make sure that we tamper expectations a little bit here, because while these are some legends of the game, right, they haven't been able to look for titles yet in preseasons here 1 and 2, and this is a weaker opponent, so I want to get hyped but not too hyped just yet. And let's see if we can see a bounce back here from Always as we move into our first time for Miami Drive. Off we go here, track number 2. Let's see if MIRAENSEJONG, or otherwise known as MSJ here, can have the same start they did last time. So far here, a little bit more competitive from Always.
Yeah, this is definitely looking like a much better start, and it's no surprise given that Always did pick this track themselves. But MIRAENSEJONG, the way they are positioned is so dominant right now.
There were a lot of tracks like this in Kart Rider League, of course the previous iteration of the KDL that had booster packs like this, but this is one of the first ones we're seeing here in Pro Play actually, where that is a thing. It's a 2-lap track. You've got to utilize those boost panels very well here. If you miss it even by just a pixel there, you're going to lose a lot of potential speed. But as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4 here occupied. by MIRAENSEJONG here. And unfortunately, Diamond really the only one who can even touch guard. And we see once again the exact same setup. Guard the sweeper, living up to his name here, guarding for his teammates. And you see always trying to draft off of each other to gain some additional momentum, but the gap is wide.
It is so wide that we can't even talk about draft timings right now. That's usually one of the crucial parts of starting your comeback. That's the very first step, but Ming, he's doing all he can, but if he gets close enough, Nock is probably just gonna knock him back.
Yeah, even Diamond having to try to collide with his own teammate, sacrifice his momentum to try to push Ming forward, and it's still just not, it's just not really working. They're not able to crack it here. And this is just great defensive play here from guard as usual, as well as MIRAENSEJONG showing that even though these are the old guys, right, these are the veterans, they know this new track so well. They already have these lines figured out. And we're seeing it once again. They skipped the second boost pad in that first lap. We'll see what they do this time around as so far Ming and Diamond trying to come in here and challenge. And oh, guard just stealing it back away. Only Diamond now in top 3.
Seems like there's no hope left for Team Always as MIRAENSEJONG lock in another yet dominating victory here in speed round 2.
Yeah. It almost feels like you're watching a guided tour of these tracks by MSJ rather than an actual competitive race. That is just the difference here. The gap is wider than anything I've ever seen so far here in KDL. And again, this is no insult to Always, but they just don't have the skills yet. They don't have the synergy yet, and you know, it's not like they're getting completely blown out of the water, but it is unfortunately just not in touching distance so far here. And you can see why, once again, the underdog team has prioritized item mode with their coin toss win, because especially after this 0-2 start here, you've got to be thinking about item mode even before we go into Terracotta Twister. And you can bet the veterans here on KDL's most popular track are going to do some schooling here. Let's see if Always can pull off a miracle to stop that 3-0 as we move into track 3.
A match point here for MIRAENSEJONG already on speed round 3. If Always can deliver us 2 wins back-to-back, then we have the match 5, and that already sounds like such a tall task.
And if you really like boil it down to the fundamentals here, it's that MIRAENSEJONG have actually been cutting well at their start, use that extra nitro they build to actually take a lead around the first half of this first lap, generally speaking. And then after that, it's just straight up them having better understanding of the lines of the track. With no interruptions, they can take the best possible lines. That's all we saw track record there on track 2. And then, unfortunately for Always, they're trying to catch up with guard blocking in that 4th place spot. And he'll even sacrifice himself to make sure nobody can come even close to 1-2. This time we're seeing Always at least have Diamond and Ming to challenge here in this first lap, but you can see they're just not making headway as Nock continues to go further and further ahead. You can see a full second nearly there, the advantage for Nock.
It's looking once again like Nock just has everything he needs to just play very casually. There's no pressure on him whatsoever. This 1-2-3 looking so solid for MIRAENSEJONG, and in a track like Terracotta Twister, it's really hard to catch up if you're not already right there side by side.
Yeah, I mean, Kart Rider is all about taking those tight lines and maximizing or minimizing really the distance you have to cover. It's almost like you're playing chicken with the walls, but if you know exactly how close you can get, that's what you have to do. And some of these younger players obviously just don't have that experience to know exactly how these karts are going to feel. And Hero will get past here, but the distance is too great. 500 meters to go, and once again, it's going to be 1-2 and the bonus 3rd here for MIRAENSEJONG, who will win speed 3-0. All 3 of them with a top 3 podium dominated by the team in red.
It seems like all the hype that we were hearing about MIRAENSEJONG were true. They made it so hard for the rookies to really showcase anything, because it felt like they were just up against titans that were better at these tracks in almost every single way possible, whether it's the lines, the blocking, or the team synergy. This is the professional team that we kind of expect to see the level from a victory contender.
Yeah. The history this team has, the experience they have versus a team that's just trying to put themselves on the map. It's very, you could very much feel it. It's amateur versus pro at the greatest scale. I mean, the most amateur of amateur versus the most experienced of all time. As Node will be coming in here for always. Note that for the side of MIRAENSEJONG, they do not have a dedicated item A substitute player. It is a 4-man roster. They packed all that power into just 4 players, so you will not see a substitution from them, just on the side of always. So Node coming in here, see if he can prove himself here, because they need this win to force an ace match. And there is no clear ace player on this team anyways. You're going to probably hit Hero or Hojun, and it's going to be rough. The uphill battle is real, but it's not over till it's over.
And this is where we talked about always having that pick priority. So they managed to take the San Francisco Seaplane Base, London Knight, Magma Cavern, and having 3 out of 5 tracks that you want is definitely an advantage a amateur team like always really needs. Whereas MIRAENSEJONG, they took Mushroom Caves and Cemetery Circuit. They don't really seem like the standard go-to picks that we have seen traditionally. So I'm excited to see how MIRAENSEJONG perform in item.
Yeah, Mushroom Caves is, it feels like it's a classic because we see it every now and then, but it's not really the go-to. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You and I had the same word in mind there. But on the opposite end of things, Seaplane Base is extremely rare. Obviously a new track here that we're bringing into this season, and one that we have not really seen just yet. So that's the plan here. That's what always want to show us. Let's see if they can take this first track here in item mode, their first of the series.
We kickstart our race now into item round officially here, and Seaplane Base is going to be a 3-star difficulty track, meaning the Siren is there for guard, and MIRAENSEJONG, they had quite a lot of confidence in utilizing these new items.
Yeah, so guard wants to use this Siren defensively here because he had such a nice lead, but there's just no one to target except Diamond. He's even going to hold on to this. He's just like, all right, let's just buffer with shield and then sit up here at the front and try to look for a big value. Siren is going to get pulled back here now, and Hero will be the one to take the advantage here. The Seaplane Base, another one of those tracks that's the simple type. I would say there are some environmental hazards here, like giant banana, but for the most part, it is a pretty straightforward track. Now, this part can get tricky with the plane. You got to avoid those propellers there, as well as it gets quite narrow, as Guard's going to actually take this outer path here, splitting himself between himself and Hero, and it's just domination here for the most part so far. Item economy fairly even, but the advantages we're seeing for Hero, who's now massively ahead, as you guys can see on the minimap, is pretty real.
Such a big lead once again for MIRAENSEJONG. Hero and Guard are just so far ahead right now, and given that Hero's equipped with 2 shields, on top of that an Angel from Guard, an Angel from Nock, it's so hard to imagine how Always can catch up.
Yeah, I don't think a timing is going to do it at this point, as Guard's firing backwards here. I think that you will need to hit some of these shields off now. They've gotten rid of one, Hero picks up another on that next item block. It's only the 2nd lap here, so there's still some time. But the problem is, Guard is there. You know, you had Hojun there for a moment too. It's really difficult to actually get into range to affect Hero. And really, I think you're going to need like a rocket and a UFO to win this one. UFO just EMP'd, so feels tough, man. I mean, Node is trying to get into that range now. He does have the magnet here from Diamond to pull Hero back, and now finally, in this final lap here, we will see that change happen.
That was definitely a clutch play coming out of Diamond there, and now it seems like Always is in such a great spot once they manage to knock Hero down. And Guard, he's sitting on 2 Angels, but no one to protect, so all the momentum shifting.
See if Knight can hold on to this. He has those 2 shields you mentioned. Oh, Hero denied there. That's actually huge because that's going to give a lot of space here tonight. We're on the final lap. Not going to try to boost here and get into range to Magnet. He also has this Siren, so Knight's going to get hit by this. And now he's kind of got that insurance plan here with the Magnet. Even though he got caught by that balloon, he's got a chance, and that barricade was huge.
Yeah, that completely knocked back Team Always, and now Nock has plenty of space here. Hojin coming in with the Siren. He's not going to be able to get in the way of anyone from Always, however, so Move, he is speeding off.
That balloon has to be huge from Hojin. I think that's going to be the deciding factor here. And now Move has a shield. Angel shield coming through. There's the shield I was talking about. And that is going to guarantee him the finish there. That shield pickup came in so clutch because they had the tools to stop him. But finally, Always are going to put themselves on the board here. They will crack it. It was extremely close here on Seaplane base, but they are able to take it. That shield pickup, if it's any other item, I don't think they take it. But he grabs it, utilizes it well there with the Angel coming through, and he wins it by 0.04 seconds. Look at that time, 0.04 seconds. A miracle win, but their first of the tournament.
I love the fact that Always played that really, really well near the end, despite having a tough start to the match, because near the end there, you were pointing out how Hojin had a water bomb locked and loaded, and it's going to be pivotal how that is aimed. And I love the fact that the left route was being taken in advance, because they were already aware of that.
Yeah, they were definitely aware of that. That was an item they need to watch out for. Now we're going to go into MIRAENSEJONG's first track selection here of Mushroom Caves. Another pretty simple track, but there are some pivotal turns, which you guys will see when we go into the track, where you can try to use them to avoid items. But the final stretch right before the finish line, there's a small narrow bridge there, but overall it's pretty open, so kind of anything goes. If you think you're winning, you better make sure you got some defensive items, because we are going to see water balloons and rockets fly at the end.
That is certainly what we will see here in track number 2 as we move into Forest Mushroom Caves.
Could be the start of a comeback here for Always, who were dominated, of course, in that speed mode. But winning the first track of item here, got some decent momentum now.
Certainly the momentum has shifted for Team Always here, and you can see that being really reflected here in the standings as well. And this is track number 2. It is picked by MIRAENSEJONG themselves, so we'll see how that confidence really translates here, as we see the backline is getting held back by these water bombs, so much so that I feel like the top 3 is going to start to really distance themselves.
Yeah, and it really has been a pretty big shift here. Guard actually taking that first place spot, trying to avoid that water bomb he knew was coming, but just clipped on the end there. And now Node in first place. See if he can get some value out of Banana. Yes, he does. Well played and well communicated, actually, that he's going to drop the Banana in that choke, and he does end up getting value. Barricade avoided, but he won't be able to dodge the EMP. Great dodge on the water bomb. These players are so good at knowing the exact radius and then staying there on the edge. His Wisp will come out. Diamond, he's got 2 shields. He's got first. He's got a defensive Angel here. It was unfortunate misses the shield there. That's really unfortunate. That was nice position he had, but I just forget everything I just said. Momentum back now into MSJ.
That is certainly the case, as we see Hojin with some excellent blocks right now. I love how he keeps maneuvering to block out the players from Always, as now Node takes the lead. He does have a lot of defensive options, but if you take a look at his team, they are quite far behind. 2 magnet rushes available here too, and there's just not much Node is going to be able to do about that here. They're going to pop the Angel early, but as you can see, Magnet's coming out here. Knock, all he's going to do is aim that one well. Here comes Boost into the Angel, and they can just crush the final moments there. They had the right tools to use that old item meta to finish. And like I was saying, there's a small narrow bridge there right before the end, but it's really just kind of an open area where if you've got enough defensive items there, you can just rush for it. They had the Angel, pop that Magnet, Nitro through to the end, and bringing us back to preseason 1 a little bit there with that finish. That certainly gave the nostalgic vibes for the item mode, and it's no surprise given that it was a 2-star track difficulty. And I feel like Always, they've shown us a pretty good round 1 here in item mode, and it's not like the round 2 here was one-sided for MIRAENSEJONG by any means. So we can really see that Team Always, they are much better at item mode, and they do have a chance to take down MIRAENSEJONG to get us to the ace match.
Yeah, could certainly happen, especially considering, we're moving now into their track selection of London Night. Another 2-star track here. The older style, very relevant here. The same type of wind condition that we saw MIRAENSEJONG take on that last map of Mushroom Caves. We'll see if they can pull it off here. If they did, they would be 1 win away from bringing us to the ace match. On the other hand, 1 win away right now is MIRAENSEJONG.
Here we go into item round 3. We are tied 1 score each right now for MIRAENSEJONG and Always. And if there's anything we know about London Knight, it is that it is still beneficial in this track to save your items for the final moments.
Yeah, there are some really fun shenanigans you could do around that final Ferris wheel. You can use it to get some additional distance. There's obviously the drawbridge aspect here. We're having items that can put you onto that higher ground at the sacrifice, of course, of losing that item box below, multiple item boxes below. Sometimes you can't always land and grab those here. But we still haven't seen enough data yet to know which style is going to be best, but that's what I love about our map pools. We've got both styles. As Guard will EMP this away, maintain his first place with a shield, grabs 2 additional shields there off the cross there on that item block. Ooh, but is still knocked in the air.
Yeah, Guard had really good guards there, but that bomb is going to clip him, unfortunately. And now Knight, he is taking the lead, but he doesn't have the ideal equipment to be up there. So I'm sure Knight is just looking to absorb some aggro for Team Always.
Diamond will avoid that water bomb there with the shield, picks up an additional one, now has 2. Will Nitro his way into the first place spot here as Knight will now kind of try to block for him, but is unsuccessful. With those 2 shields, Diamond feels fairly comfortable here, but as we've seen on these 3-lap tracks, 2 shields is never going to be enough. We'll block one of those, gets hit by the water bomb, avoids this one, blows a shield regardless, picks up another one though, so he's not feeling too bad. He's kind of getting lucky with these shields. Let's see how long he can keep this up.
Yeah, the drop rate certainly helps that when you're in the lead, you get the defensive items, but he is getting clipped by these items left and right, and it seems like Team Always, they have an advantage, but MIRAENSEJONG, they have 2 magnets.
Yeah, EMP traded for another shield here. He's got one more EMP picked up. He keeps using these items and cycling them extremely well. We need to see a big move here from MIRAENSEJONG, or he's just going to take it here. Node also in a great spot right now. Oh, the last push! Not enough, though. Diamond off screen. Is it going to take it? You see those heart rates going up at like 150.
That was a crazy moment there. Hojin came out and really applied so much pressure on screen, and it felt like Team Always, as they were spinning out of control from all the missiles, that Hojin might be able to come in, but Team Always, they managed to stay composed and they take round 3.
That was a really well played game for them. I think Diamond cycled his shields for EMPs really well and very aggressively. Notice his blocks were really high there, and some of the timings of his shields left a little bit to be desired, but they played around him, and then they eventually, he absorbed so much attention that they had multiple players to actually go over there. It's Diamond, of course, who crosses the finish line first, but not looking too happy here, Hojin and crew, on the side of MSJ, because this might mean they have to go to an ace match if Always can win the next track, Graveyard Cemetery Circuit. See if that happens. It's all down to this for Always. You want to keep that momentum going. Bring it to an ace match in your first match against these legends. Let's see if they can do it. Always leading 2-1 here in item mode over MIRAENSEJONG, who did take speed. We are potentially 1 track away from an ace match. We'll see how this one goes here. One of our newer tracks, we saw it earlier today. Big Balloon.
We love seeing those water bombs connect. Always exciting stuff, but keep in mind that Cemetery Circuit is a 3-star track. Although we haven't seen the new items yet, the fact that sirens are going to be around is very scary.
I feel like you could see the jack-o'-lantern's face in the 3rd star, because it's a track it's got a lot of environmental hazards, and not the traditional kart rider drift environmental hazards like a door closing or something swinging through or a propeller plane. It's just the track itself has a lot of jumps. It has a lot of hazardous locations where if you get hit by an item, you will fall off, and we saw it already there on the first lap. We're moving into the second one now. Node has a lead, but not a massive one, and Hojun will actually pass him here. Advantage definitely MIRAENSEJONG's right now.
Certainly seems that way as Hojun picks up 2 shields for himself, so he's going to be able to dodge out from a lot of these attacks, but the UFO timing, just as you put it.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I'm talking about on this track. You get caught by an item at the worst possible place, and you're going to get double whammied because you're going to get Lackitude back onto the track, and that is really unfortunate there. Node now going to be pushed up into first place here with Move. See what items they can get. That Wisp not going to be too useful for Move. Unfortunately, he'll be caught by one himself.
But he just returns the favor now on Hero with the Wisp of his own, as we see Guard doing all he can to catch up. He does have a Nitrous there as well, so it's going to be easy for Guard to catch up, especially with that UFO.
Yeah, so see if he wants to hold on to that Nitro. In fact, this Move will push up here. The answer looks to be no. Well, thought he was going to use it right there, but just trying to battle for this next set of items and try to knock each other off the pit. You see one fall down there. Guard can actually get EMP, or rather UFO'd here at the worst possible time. It's the final lap now. Node only has 1 shield left, but where are the attacking items? One more item block to grab. Diamond gonna eat this rocket and the balloon. And it looks like Hojun now in pole position. It's gonna be so close, actually. What items they get? Rockets had to be traded. Hojun shields it. 300 meters to go.
Node, he's holding on to shield and he pops it right now expertly. The lightning comes in to stop Diamond's momentum, and Diamond, he's able to go against all odds and bring that first place home for Team Always.
Oh man, I mean, the heart rates were going crazy for this squad. You could tell the passion was there. The lightning came out. It didn't look like it was going to be enough. Diamond sails across the finish line despite everything, and what was essentially him against the world there, as the rest of MIRAENSEJONG were barreling down on him right behind him. Look at the difference here. Once again, another 0.4 second finish difference here. The margins we are seeing are just so thin.
I am certainly impressed by the way Team Always has managed to basically turn around the whole tempo of the game today against MIRAENSEJONG, because frankly in speed it felt like they had no shot at all, but here in the item mode they were able to bring us to that ace match through a 3-1 victory. And to be honest, when it comes to the roster of Team Always, you have to wonder, who is the player that they send out for that ace match?
That's the really tough question, and we have this conversation here during ace selection every single time, and for some teams the answer is more obvious than others.
Right.
And generally speaking, when you see the player who's subbed out for item mode, that often ends up being the ace. So it could be Ming here in this case. Diamond has also been, I think, the best performing player today, so we'll see if maybe it's him. But I think we have to ask the same question of MSJ here, because Hojun versus Hero was a matchup, a classic that we saw all the time. Both of those players so experienced in ace matches. It could be either of them, but it could also be Nock, who's really risen quite quickly in his career here in the KDL as well.
That is certainly the benefit if your team MIRAENSEJONG having so many players so capable of playing that ace match. But as you pointed out earlier, Wolf, Diamond, he has made a pretty impressive record by beating Ding in ace match in the preliminaries to get here. So I wonder for Team Always, do they trust Diamond again for being able to knock out some of the more highly decorated players in KDL? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, he also, I think, was the best performing player in item mode, had some of the best challenges we saw, obviously, when we were watching Speed as well. It looks like he's a player with, even though not a lot of experience, a lot of raw talent, and I would trust him for sure. Let's see where we're headed, because this, of course, adds a lot to this. It's going to be Miami Drive, actually. This is such an interesting ace track, because we talked about the booster pads earlier a little bit. It's not your traditional track. Sometimes it's not about the exact line you want to take. There's a little bit of extra strategy on this one. Pretty interesting here. So my money was either on Hojun or Hero, but actually it looks like it's going to be Guard here. They're going to give him an opportunity. One of the old DFI Blades, one of the old Guard himself, has been on so many top teams. He was on Live Sandbox, was on DFI Blade. Ended up on Sensation, couldn't get the results he wanted, but will be the first ace here for MSJ against Diamond, who looks very nervous. But he was able to do it once before. We'll see if he can do it again in this first series.
You can see the complete difference in atmosphere right now between the two players. One is just focusing right now, trying not to get too nervous, whereas it feels like Guard, he has all the odds supporting him here, but now we are ready to move into our first ace match of day 2 of KDL here in World Tour Miami Drive.
The ace match has begun between MIRAENSEJONG and Always here on our new track, Miami Drive. Track with those booster packs I was talking about. Neither going to take that one this time around. But Guard, one of the legends of the end of Kartrider League versus Diamond, his first official ace match here in the KDL. Did it in the preliminaries, was able to win that one very critically. It's a 2-lap track here. It all comes down to this. Let's see if Diamond can maintain his composure.
And if you take a look at that booster gauge right now, surprisingly, it was pretty close for a moment there, but now Guard does seem to have a pretty nice edge, given that he's so far ahead as well.
Yeah, it was a really nice block from him. The collision definitely did not favor Diamond. And Diamond's outside of draft range right now as well, which is super frustrating here. See if he can find a tighter line. Takes a greedy one here towards that median, and a second one as well. Really nice lines here from Diamond. Didn't have that booster the way he wanted to, but still closed the distance a little bit. It's a 2-lap track. There's still a little bit left to go, but those collisions there with the wall definitely not going to do him any favors.
Diamond is definitely doing all he can, greeting when he needs to, but the odds are against him. Guard, he's just maintaining his line, but Diamond constantly needs to greet because so far he hasn't been able to recover from the great block that Guard has showed.
Yeah, he's going to sacrifice a little bit of nitro gauge here to try to take the slower as the crow flies, or the faster as the crow flies line here. We'll lose a little bit of boost gauge, but they're still neck and neck in that regard. He's closed the gap quite substantially here. Now in draft range, we're getting close to the end of this second lap. This is going to be one of the tighter turns. Guard's block needs to be good. So far, he has been able to maintain that advantage.
Oh my God, Diamond
no way!
completely wins the trade there on that line. Guard hits the wall and Diamond is now leading.
Oh man, we are going to see a huge upset here in our second day of the KDL. Guard, 400 meters to go. No boost advantage here. There is just no way he's going to catch Diamond. One mistake. He looks at his teammates with a sheepish grin, but look at these players jumping out of the chair and embracing. Diamond was so nervous, you could see it on his face. He did not have the confidence that he could tackle a legend of the Kartrider League here in his first KDL match, but he did. He maintained composure. He was behind for 2/3 of that race, almost 3/4 you could almost say. And then one small mistake as he gets around Guard. It's Guard who chokes. It's Guard who gets nervous. And we are going to see Always defeat MIRAENSEJONG. Never thought I'd say those words today.
Certainly we did not come into the office today expecting MIRAENSEJONG to drop a game to Team Always, a complete rookie team composed of young players that have never been on stage before, on camera. You saw how nervous they were when they were walking up just to the stage, but to be able to deliver on an ace match like this, where your nerves are just flaring, it's so amazing that we have new talents coming in like this.
Yeah, it really is. And they came with a clear plan. Item mode was going to be their way. Dymo's one across the finish line to bring us to the ace. They chose him. They believed in him again. He struggled, but he believed in himself despite everything. And it's stories like these you don't always get to see this early on in the season either. It is just, it's kind of wild. And I think, you know, I mentioned it to you when we watched the dominant speed mode. We got to make sure that we don't set our expectations too high for Miraen at this point, because still a weaker opponent that doesn't have a lot of experience, doesn't have a lot to say. And then boom, go into item mode, they lose that 1-3. Ace match goes the other way with Guard choking there. He was laughing at the beginning before they entered the track itself, but wasn't laughing at the end, unfortunately. And Always starting the season off with a tough schedule and taking a win against one of the tougher teams in the league, that has got to be so good for your confidence.
This is like a story straight out of a novel. The dream that these young players had coming into today to be able to upset a victory against the legends of Kartrider League themselves.
And it wasn't even like MIRAENSEJONG had a bad day. You
Right.
know what I mean? They didn't play poorly. Their speed mode was extremely dominant. Item was very close. I mean, those 0.04 second differences, like, always squeaked by in those. But all it comes down to in the ace match is one mistake, and we've seen it so many times. How many times have we seen Neil make that one error in that really critical race, that one that matters the most, and the upset loss goes over? This is one of those nights, and I would absolutely still say, I think, walking away from today's match, MSJ, much stronger team. I would actually say that. But they don't get the W on the day because Diamond clutched it out. He was able to maintain enough speed there to actually close the gap, took those aggressive lines you were talking about, got close enough to that one mistake from Guard is all it takes to actually take the upset win. And that's what this league is all about.
Absolutely. We love seeing the amateurs be able to beat the pros from time to time like this. And for a player like Diamond, who has started to definitely build a reputation for himself through the preliminaries by carrying his team through many tight moments, but the feat of that compared to being able to pull that off here in the KDL main stage is just certainly on a completely different level. So I feel like a lot of new fans are going to be developing now for this team.
Absolutely. It's like when Ghost won against Kwangdong when he was, it was a controversial race. Of course, everyone remembers it, but when he was able to take that win over World, people were like, who is this guy? I'm really interested. I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of really interesting discussions happening on the Korean forums, and of course with you guys globally as well. And we'll have a post-game interview here on the Korean stream, so if you want to check it out, you can check it out. But for us here, we're going to take a look at today's matches and, of course, the results. So we did have 3 matches here, as it is the Wednesday day. Starting things off with, it's NUTMITE and Desperado. That the logo always makes me grin.
Yeah, that logo certainly is funny, but today they didn't walk away with a grin because they couldn't even take Desperado to an ace match, and this was a amateur team versus amateur team that most people felt were well matched, but Desperado, they're the ones grinning today.
And NUTMITE, I mean, they made it very close. Both of those modes did go to 5, but Desperado was able to play the better game in both 5 and 5 for item and speed. So, you know, I think this was very close to being the maximum tracks going to the full 11 and the ace match, but NUTMITE put up a good fight, weren't successful. In this series, we did see FINALEe go 4-0 in item after their series against Rocks, but then Liv Sandbox did close it out 3-1 after a very dominant speed.
Yeah, it's interesting to see that FINALEe, they attempted the same strategy as Team Always did today, but it didn't work out. There was no sunshine on this side. They needed to win item, but Liv Sandbox showed that not only is their speed good, but their item is really on point with the current meta.
Yeah. They've been able to update, and with the roster staying together, obviously not having to deal with any team synergy things or anything like that. They had to deal with it in preseason 2, with some of their members, of course, going to mandatory military service. Not to be the case in our first season here in 2023. And our final series, you guys just watched it, or if you missed it, wow, you came at a bad time. It was a very fun one with Always taking the upset. There was, to me, in my mind, after watching Speed, it felt like there was absolutely no hope. I mean, it was one of the most dominant speeds I have ever seen, if not the most dominant in my experience with Cartwriter. But bounce back an item, very close. And then Diamond, he made it happen. Again, a lot of people remember it as Guard's choke rather than Diamond's win, but at the end of the day, he was massively behind, but he certainly took extremely greedy lines and didn't make any mistakes. It was Guard by the advantage and dropped the ball.
Exactly. You have to keep in mind that before that scene happened where Guard hit the wall, it was Diamond applying a lot of pressure on Guard all of a sudden from nowhere, and Guard felt like, okay, now I gotta watch my lines and maybe greed a little so I don't give any advantage, and that pressure is what allowed these plays to happen.
So with this win for Liv Sandbox, they will go to 1-1. They're our only team actually sitting at 1-1 in the middle of the pack right now because they had a tough schedule. But Liv Sandbox and Desperado still at the top. Desperado picking up that win. Both close wins, so Kwangdong Freaks and Desperado are tied in first. FINALEe dropping down to 8th place with their loss. Like I said, you never wanted to start your season out 0-2, but it's going to happen to somebody. And then Always, surprisingly, of course, maintaining a top 3 spot tied with Sungnam Rocks with that upset win. Feels great when you beat one of the toughest teams in the league this early on. You know it's out of the way. You can focus on easier things. You can focus on improving your fundamentals. And, you know, it's still early, right? We don't really know what's going to happen in terms of postseason. There are clear favorites, but Always definitely made an impression on me tonight.
And as we get to the postseason, the set wins and round wins also really matter. So for teams like Guangdong Freaks and Desperado, not only do they have that 1-0 record, they must be feeling pretty good right now going into the postseason. Whereas FINALEe-sports, yeah, they're 0-2 and they have so much time to recover, but the -3 and -5 is going to really hurt them.
Yeah, that is a really good point that you mentioned. The -5 does feel bad. We will be back on Saturday, of course, the 14th. So there is going to be, because it's Saturday, we have 2 team matches. Desperado against Guangdong Freaks, both currently tied for first right now, so that should be pretty exciting. And then Always against NUTMITE. At this point in time, I think even though Always did just defeat the super team, I don't want to get overhyped for them just yet. But, I mean, I think that match should be very competitive. I think it could go either way.
Certainly could. And of course, the solo match to round out the day will be the round of 32 Group B, and we have players like Hero, Navi, Bung, Acidfly, Sungbin, Scald, Shelly, and Spec. I feel like the names Shelly and Spec are the new ones that we're not so used to.
Yeah.
But Scald definitely left an impression on us today.
Oh yeah, Scald looked really good today. Obviously, you know, Sungbin and Hero, Acidfly very popular. Navi, I think, trying to still find his footing. But yeah, it's a good group that we will have, of course, on Saturday. So make sure to tune in. Check it out. It is going to be very exciting. But that is all we have for us here on our 3-team day Wednesday. We'll see you guys for more KDL action on Saturday.
Check if my name in your mouth, better add the respect. Otherwise, pressure gon' be at your neck when I burn you like. This ain't a game, my aim is the throne. I'm much higher than you, like a rocket, a drone. I'm powerful, think of a stone. Throw it off in my brain and I'm bad to the bone.